So this comes to the close of this year's SINAInnovations. I think, I hope you'll agree, it's been stimulating and exciting and really points us in a lot of new directions. Now, these closing comments follow in the example of Ken Davis, who've done them in previous SINAInnovations, and he leaves very big shoes to fill, so hopefully I'll do it justice. As I think about therapeutic discovery, it's a very paradoxical and cross-cutting number of threads. It's the most demanding, complex, competitive, but collegial, urgent, but long-term, exhilarating, frustrating, and ultimately rewarding endeavors imaginable. It's a follow-on to creating new knowledge, which can be really thrilling. I think ultimately the goal, as clearly articulated by Dean Charney, both in large sessions like this, but also in small groups consistently, is that we need to make patients' lives better, both in the quality of their lives, the health and length of their lives. So what are the elements that we learned about from this two-day meeting today and some of the activities over the course of the weekend? The first clearly is to identify the problem and the unmet need. And we learned that that represents unmet needs not just in the industrialized world, but in the developing world as well. Not only treating diseases, but also health maintenance and wellness. And this can be both on a micro level in the individual patient, cells or molecules, but certainly on the macro level in terms of population health and global health. I think it also requires that we establish priorities. You can't do everything. And I think we heard that theme over and over again. Then in terms of the next element, we need to assemble expertise and tools. So the team science theme came out loud and strong. No man is an island. Research is not a solo act. We heard that in many different ways, but all of them lead to the idea that one has to have complementary skills and strengths, including not just different phenotypes of scientists, but also patients as well as providers. We also need teams that are skilled in big data, both macro and micro again. And then we learned a lot about new tools, and so we need to invest and support infrastructure. Some of the spectacular new technologies include optogenetics and clarity. We heard from Carl Deisroth yesterday. Drug screening methods, of which you heard about in this morning's sessions, CRISPR, Cas9, and then beyond Cas9, as we heard from George Church. We also need a training environment that cultivates and supports new ideas, young people, and really attract them. That's part of what this entire event is about, is really electrifying our campus, and particularly our trainees, to embrace innovation and therapeutic discovery. The teams can also extend to include consortia. We heard about a number of different consortia that have been developed, private, public, academic, that pool resources and expertise. We also need expertise in clinical trials, a boldness, a willingness to design new clinical trials, incorporate new elements, single individual trials, adaptive trials, all of these new methods that we heard about this morning in Janice Gabrilov's session. We also were reminded of the many strengths in academia, and that's something obviously we're very comfortable articulating. First is advocacy, that we are advocates both for our own ideas, our own technologies, and hopefully and certainly for our own patients and our patient groups. We have young trainees who are bright, who are uncluttered in terms of the dependence on the dogma of the field. We have patients with rare diseases. We have access to patient samples and patient experience. We have passion. And I think that came out loud and clear, is that we follow the science wherever it leads. Ken Kaushansky said that very well, is that the joy, and certainly in my own career, the joy of following the science wherever it leads is intensely rewarding, as is the literal creation of new knowledge that no one else on the planet knows, at least for a little while, till we publish it, and hopefully pharma can reproduce it. And then finally, we need investment. And this is something that is all of our responsibility. I think as a community, scientists don't do nearly as good a job as they should in advocating for support of science, despite the fact that poll after poll indicate that the public trusts scientists, they believe in the future of science, they embrace it, and they're willing to support it. And so we need to step up and create new funding models of every sort. You heard a lot about that from Eric Liam's panels. And this really establishes a template for us to move to the future. And although Yogi Berra said very simply, making predictions is hard, but especially about the future, I will project a couple of, I think, low-risk predictions. It's clear that success will continue both incrementally and in large leaps of occasional breakthroughs, but mostly success is incremental. And I found that one doesn't really appreciate success completely until you look back. So the retrospectoscope, if you will, is one of the clearest ways to assess how much progress has been made, and that's certainly been the case when we think about some of the technologies, the breakthrough technologies, as well as the small steps. I think one major theme for me that I've learned more and more in interacting with experts here is that we need to embrace complexity. As much as experimental scientists like to do hypothesis-driven research, and that's certainly very important, and we like to reduce our experimental systems to the most simple and explicable that we can, the fact is we can't avoid the fact that we have to begin to understand how big data sets are integrated that yield information and patterns both in the micro and the macro level that one cannot simply see with the naked eye or with a simple construct. And I think Manolis Kellis' talk really illustrated how one has to have almost an engineer's approach in structuring data sets, integrating them, intersecting them, so that themes that may not be apparent to you will emerge when we do those kinds of analyses. I think we also need to extend these successes that we develop in the industrialized world to the developing world, and I thought that our last speaker, Dr. Basu, did a terrific job of that. He also reminded us that you really need goals and deadlines. That we should be as data-driven as possible, but in the end it needs to be pointed to a goal. If you don't meet the goal, you move the goalpost a bit, but you have to have a goalpost. So finally, how will this conference have any impact at all? To me, it will be successful if it has planted seeds that promote new concepts, new interactions or new directions, or even a new way of looking at an old problem by those who attended, whether you're a trainee, a mature scientist, an investor, or a patient. And then I'd like to just close by saying this conference is really a small part of a much larger effort and a vision that's been articulated over and over again by Ken Davis and Dennis Charney, that we are an institution that are really committed to making a difference and improving the quality and the quantity of lives of our patients. That's hardwired into our mission. It has been for many, many decades, and we hope that this conference has advanced that mission in a small but meaningful way. So thank you again. We'll see you here next year.